One of the reasons that I'm fairly optimistic about Ukraine's ultimate success in this war is because Ukraine is doing something very different than what Russia is doing. They're both trying to win a war, but Ukraine keeps focusing on Russian logistics. Russia just seems to be trying to harass and um, frustrate the Ukrainian population so that they'll rise up and overthrow Zelensky. I mean, if I had to summarize strategies, Ukraine is really trying to be efficient and target Russian military supplies, weapons, transportation hubs, because in doing that, it prevents them from being able to bring to bear their full might against the Ukrainian civilian population, let alone the military, which seems like almost an afterthought in their harassment strategy. Okay, overnight, 29 July, that's today. Ukrainian drones hit a fuel train at Russia's Salisk rail hub in Rostov Oblast. 9 trains stopped as fires rage. Okay, so you'd say, oh, it's just a train, whatever. No, this is a big thing. Salisk Rostov region, almost 350 kilometers from the front line. Things got hot. Trains are canceled in the region. And there's more to the story. It's a fuel train on fire after tonight's drone attack on Rostov region. Listen, amateur study tactics, said Omar Bradley, a general like Bradley fighting vehicles named after this guy, big general from World War II. Professionals study logistics. Amateur study tactics, professionals study logistics. I think there's something to this, and the Ukrainians are going after logistics. In fact, Ukraine strikes in 3 days, 3 Ukrainian strikes, all of them hit the same rail line. These deliberate attacks aim to disrupt Russian military logistics. Right, because that's what's important. If you can disrupt the logistics, you can keep them from being able to hit you at the same rate. You're doing better. Okay. Zelensky's also signed a law to expand Ukraine's security service, giving a major boost to its elite Alpha unit, the special forces team behind recent drone attacks on key Russian air bases. So it'll be interesting to see how they not only disrupt Russian logistics, but increase their own forces that go after disrupting Russian logistics. Like, this is like the pinnacle of the disruption of Russian logistics by knocking out a good fraction of the Russian strategic bomber fleet in a single day. Okay, 5 civilians. Meanwhile, what Russia's doing to Ukraine, 5 civilians were killed and 3 others injured in Kharkiv region after a Russian rocket strike hit people waiting in line for humanitarian aid. This is where Russia is. Zelensky says 22 people were killed in one day. A pregnant woman named Diana died while a missile hit Kamansky Hospital. Strikes tore through 73 towns with drones, missiles, and bombs. 73 towns, drones, missiles, bombs. And it's not just drones. 17 inmates died in Zaporizhia after a prison strike. Well, okay, so if you're thinking like if you're going to invade a country, right, are you going to try to hit a prison? Like, aren't people in the prison not going anywhere to begin with? Like, what purpose is served by hitting a prison? It's just like what Russia's doing is just idiotic in some cases. Okay, Shahed drones overnight, 39, very low, probably saving up for a rainy day tomorrow. But it's not just 39. There's also Iskander missiles, and there's also bombs. A maternity home in Kamansky, like a maternity home like for mothers with small children, in Kamansky. And I was looking at this, like thinking, like, where is Kamansky? I'll show you that in just a little bit. Russian ballistic attack on the city killed 3 people today. Really? You're going to attack pregnant women or women who have just given birth, or what? What? Okay. One of the most striking patterns I've observed is a contrast. This is Taragami Ue, is a former military intelligence guy. And one of the most striking patterns I've observed in the contrast in the long-range drone targeting. Ukrainian strikes focus on military production and logistics, with rare cases of civilian damage. Russian strikes, by contrast, hit civilian infrastructure almost daily and deliberately. And then they say, no, we only hit military targets, when you can clearly see that they're lying. 8 Russian bombs targeted a prison in Zaporizhia, as we just talked about, killed 16 people, injured 35. Local officials say parts of the facility were destroyed. Homes nearby were damaged. That was increased to 17 dead instead of 16 dead at the prison. There destroyed apartments, injured people as a result of a massive drone strike by Russians in Odessa. Massive damage, a 9-story building which collapsed. Rescuers evacuated 33 residents, saved 5 who were trapped in their apartments. Like, what is the point of that? Like, how is that? Okay, so how is that helping the war effort? Like, that's the first question that I have. Unless you're just trying to harass civilians to the point that they were going to rise up against their government, but it's never worked. It didn't work in the Blitz in World War II. It doesn't work now. Okay. This is the reality of life in Ukraine. A wedding in Sumy held to the sound of Shahed drones overhead. The couple exchanged vows. A deadly Russian drone flew right above them. Stark reminder that even in moments of love are lived under the shadow of war. And you're hearing the preacher talking, and if you listen, you can hear the drone. That's just incredible. This is Diana, 23. She was 6 months pregnant. Today, Russia killed Diana and her unborn baby by a ballistic missile strike. Like, and again, where was it? Kamansky is not near the front line. The front line's over here. It's not, I mean, it's not close. Okay. Russia's insolence, Sergei Sumileny posted this. Russia's insolence today comes from a long history of impunity, from Grozny to Aleppo. Impunity encourages repetition. And Olenvinka, the prison strike 3 years ago, Olenvinka is not an exception in this war. It is a detail of a much larger pattern of violation, including executions, prosecution of POWs. 2 years ago, Russia had executed over 100 of Ukrainian POWs in this prison camp, tried to hide it as a fire or even Ukrainian strike. Yeah, I'll talk about that again more in just a little bit. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, 1,050 Russians off the battlefield, 4 tanks, 39 artillery systems, 91 vehicles and fuel tanks. If we look at Andrew Perpetua, he upgraded his losses for July 26th. And so you can see like lots of Russian losses, lots of Ukrainian losses. It's a little better than 1-to-1 on the 26th. I mean, a little better for the Russians on that. On the 27th, looks a lot better. 27th is about 2.5, maybe not quite 3-to-1 Ukrainian or like Russian losses versus Ukrainian losses. A much better day for Ukraine when we're looking at that on the 27th. But cross direction, Russian invaders conducted 42 assaults. And again, we look at Pokrovsk because that's the high watermark on the battlefield. Okay. This was interesting. 2 Russian soldiers collide on motorbikes on a rural dirt road. 2 Russian soldiers fail to avoid each other, end up in a head-on motorcycle crash. Footage suggests they were both riding at full speed, clearly didn't expect to see anyone coming. Okay, well, I'll take that. That's still going to be 1 or 2 off the battlefield. That's good. What possible purpose, says Andrew Perpetua, what possible purpose is there in shelling a random town this much? It's not a frontline town. There are no military in it. Cannot be assaulted. It's literally just attacking civilians with grads, no military purpose. Russia will never, ever assault or capture this town. And yet they're shelling it because they just bring destruction and death where they go. This is like part, like when Ukrainians use the term orcs, I initially discounted it because every army does the same thing to every other army or people from one country who are at war with another. The Japanese were Nips and the Vietnamese were Gooks and the Germans were Krauts. And like, you just come up with it, right? I'm sure that, I mean, even Yankee Doodle was a a derogatory term that the British used for Americans in the American Revolution, right? So, but orc is actually kind of a fitting term when you think about they just bring destruction in their path. Here's another example. These water trucks are heading from Russia's Rostov toward Ukraine. Well, but wait, destruction, but they're bringing water. Yes, because they destroyed stuff. Due to Russia's occupation, Donetsk region has been left without water. There is also a shortage of water for Russian soldiers from the center and east military groupings. In the Donetsk coal basin, nearly all mines have been flooded during the occupation. As long as the mines were operating or kept in dry conservation, water was regularly pumped out, but after Russian forces occupied the city in 2014, they first sold all the equipment from these mines for scrap metal and then simply flooded everything. Flooding the mines meant stopping pumping of the water from them. As a result, all the water horizons in the Donbass are now unfit for use. This is a massive environmental catastrophe that no one's talking about. And so they have these lines and lines of water trucks trying to, bring water to the population because of the destruction that they brought in their wake. It wasn't like that before they got there. And then you have kids pleading on videos to Uncle Vova, please give us water. Children from occupied Donbass beg Putin for the most basic necessity. Children from Russians occupied Donbass recorded this video. Uncle Vova, we want to run and laugh, not wait for trucks to bring us water. Please give us a miracle. Water from the tap. Water from the tap is not a miracle. And if it is a miracle, something went very, very wrong. Okay. Meanwhile, while you see that, the water trucks and all that, this woman is speaking to the Valentina Matviyenko, speaking to the 15th Summit of Women Speakers of Parliament, shared Russian lies in front of an audience. She lied that Russia started the war to protect the children of Donbass. There's a lot better ways of protecting children than to deprive them of water from the tap. I think we'd all agree on that. Okay. Now, yesterday was the day of mourning for a remembrance of the defenders who were killed in that prison attack. And if you recall, what happened there was these were Azovstal defenders, and they were brought to this POW camp, and then they were just blown up from the inside out. And the Russians said that Ukraine shelled them with HIMARS. Yeah. And then called for the UN to come investigate and then wouldn't let the UN inspectors in. Okay, in 2022, Russia killed 50 Ukrainian prisoners with thermobaric weapon and for a long time spread false claim that it was done by Ukrainians. Even the UN eventually acknowledged the lie, but only after years. Russian Olavinka prison chief said, this one's dead? Good. While sipping coffee after a thermobaric explosion killed around 50 POWs in 2022. Comment was made as victims lay dead and injured in prison camp. Okay, now just a couple last stories and we'll be done. Panic at the FSB Counterintelligence Department T in anticipation of mass purges following the cyber attack on Aeroflot. They're responsible for security of all transport infrastructure. They were last purged after the 2022 truck bomb attack on the Kerch Bridge. So I'd be nervous too if I worked in that department. Putin security is also nervous. They're now carrying drone interceptors. What? Putin security is walking around with drone interceptors. Not making this up. The bunkers leaders and bodyguards are now forced to haul not only dozens of kilos of body armor hidden under bulky jackets, but also FPV drone interceptors just in case a little bird flies too close. Yeah, I looked this up. It's on Defense Blog as well. You can see same thing. Even though Nexta has provided reasonably good information over time, I still had to double check. It was unbelievable. On this day, last little bit from Darth Putin, then we'll look at Jake Bro. On this day in 2022, this was yesterday, POWs at this POW camp shelled themselves, killing 50, but magically not touching a single Russian guard, conveniently also meaning that they couldn't testify that we had teed them so badly the evidence would have shamed even us. That's right. Okay, Jake Bro's campaign, it was $827,000 yesterday. They're almost to $1 million. They're working at it. 847,706. It's been about a week now, and they're most of the way to the goal. If you want to be part of this fundraiser, I will put the link below. Thank you, my friends, for your time right now. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, your interest, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.